Hello, I am the LordofPans. Recently, I've been concerned about having worms in my brain after a series of bloody noses, seizures, and unusual fixations. I went to the doctor to get tested and found there are not worms in my brain. However, there is a problem. It's toxoplasmosis. Technicalities aside, I believe this still qualifies me to be appointed as the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. I will be using this video to provide further evidence of my qualifications in the fields of genetics, public health, pharmacy, and gender studies. Mewgenics is Edmund Macmillan's new game and further evidence of his insanity. The man made The Binding of Isaac 15 years ago, and his humor is still the same. As it should be. Poop jokes and crude violence have been staples of comedy since the dawn of man, and will likely stay that way until we take the joke too far. Disclaimer: there will be spoilers in this video. Frankly, I think you know what to expect from a Macmillan game, and if you don't, this should be confusing enough that you won't retain any of the knowledge. You are a crazy cat lady resurrected by a bad scientist to study feline-related phenomena. Specifically, what happens when you put far too many of them in a house together, add growth hormones to the water, watch them breed endlessly, and then take them on monitored excursions into the world. The results are Habsburgian lineages, depression, a very well-fed homeless man who thinks he's you, kaiju fights, the return of the mustache man, and nuking God. These officially qualify Mewgenics as a JRPG with a storyline that somehow makes less sense than the standard Aqua Teen episode. Then again, it could also be that I was playing the game with the flu and suffering fever dreams that I no longer care to sort from my real memories. The visuals are in Macmillan's characteristic style. Cutesy cartoons with exaggerated motions that complement the vile things put on screen. As always, there's a lot of different styles of poop on display. The game is generally very readable. A unit's status is easily seen by posture and injuries displayed on their body. If a cat's not doing very well, he's not going to look very good. Then again, he might not have looked very good to start with. Battles can sometimes get hectic and hard to read. When there's a million different tile types being spawned, each with their own effects on top of fully equipped cats, varieties of enemies, and several random pieces of debris, it can be hard to see what's going on. Luckily, they already thought about that. Holding down scroll wheel will show you the position of units, their status, and the direction they are facing. Mousing over a unit or tile will also display stat blocks and descriptions for the effects they are under. As for sound, it perfectly complements the madness. Effects are varied and convey the intensity of the action taken. Enemies make distinct sounds so that you can tell whose turn it is to violate you. Most important of all, there's an absolutely insane amount of cat meows. I have had auto-tuned meows, Markiplier, concerning meows, and
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. Where are your fingers?
And I don't even think I've even scratched the surface of the list. The music is also a delight. It's very jazz-inspired, which I'm not always a fan of, but these songs, earworms, if you will, crawl into my brain and play over and over until I am conditioned to like it. I can confidently say that 50% of my excitement for a new level is just getting to the boss so I can hear what the lyrics are going to be this time. This guy's theme should not be this catchy. The gameplay is split between two different modes: house management and expeditions. House management is what you'll be doing for the minority of your time with the game. This is where your cats live, breed, fight, and defecate when not on excursions. Stray cats visit your house once a day in order to add to the population to provide much needed genetic diversity. Your house only starts with one room, but you can build more with the help of the local learning impaired man. He's friendly, just a little confused, and also a parasite puppeting a corpse. Rooms don't have a limit on the amount of cats that can be in them at one time. Technically, there are 4 stats attached to each room, and an overall appeal score for the house. Why do we care about this? Because these numbers determine the quality of the feline fighters you intend to put through hell. Sometimes literally. How do we improve these scores? Furniture. Furniture can be purchased from the child masochist for coins or found on expeditions. Once acquired, it will need to be placed in a room on a grid format. This eventually builds up until every space in your house is being used for furniture like the hoarder you are. Once properly furnished, we can get to business. Breeding cats is, well, frankly, it's the name of the game. Taking cats with varying stats, abilities, mutations, cosmetic effects, and putting them in a comfortable room together will result in kittens that are a mixed result of their traits, unless they're gay. Look, there's nothing wrong with that, and you're allowed to do whatever you want with your body, just not in my house. By breeding these cats together, you can create a race of super felines to take on all enemies that stand in your way. I do believe that this is what Mendel had in mind when he planted those peas. Cats that no longer serve a purpose, or that are born that way, can be removed by dropping them into the giant pipe outside of your house. These cats can then be given to neighbors for permanent upgrades to your storages, house, and feline knowledge, so long as they fulfill their required preferences. Mutant cats in particular can be given to Dr. Beanies in order to acquire a side quest that you can complete to add an item to the pool permanently. Cats, being the essential part of the game, have a lot going on in the background. Cats will be male, female, or huh? They also can be gay or bisexual, depending on their gay percentage. Cat aggression and libido affect fight and reproduction rates. Lifespan length is random, and once cats reach a certain age, they will be considered old. As with real-life elderly, they now have a significant chance to die every day and can be retired to a nice farm upstate. Most important of all are a cat's stats. Stats can be altered by injuries, mutations, and items, but baseline stats are inherited by kittens. Strength is for melee, dex, range, con, health, int, mana regen, speed, movement and turn order, charisma, mana max and starting mana, luck, crit rate, and gambling. Each cat starts with a selection of abilities and passives and acquires more by leveling up. These abilities can then be inherited by kittens to allow for a more broken start to your next run. Cats may also acquire disorders from inbreeding, certain attacks, or just being unlucky. These are also inheritable and range from funny to a rabies AIDS combo with no Discovy in sight. Luckily, cats are only allowed 2 disorders at a time. This can be abused to overwrite particularly bad disorders with more manageable alternatives. Occasionally, a boss will spawn that will attack your house within a week. These bosses allow you to progress the game by dropping a unique quest item that can be used on a following run to unlock new areas in the game. Bosses can be repeatedly attempted, and previously beaten bosses can be resummoned with the help of Steven in order to get boss-specific loot. It should be noted that bosses are not possible with standard cats. For this, we need veteran cats that have leveled up and been equipped with items acquired on expeditions are the main focus of the game. Up to 4 cats can be voluntarily selected for service at a time to go out into the world and beat up a lot of animals minding their own business. There are 3 main acts, each with 2 branching paths of 3 levels that converge on a final level you need to unlock by defeating previously mentioned bosses. Each level has its own rules, enemies, and items to discover along the way. Levels have consistent layouts, but what's within each encounter, shop, chest, and battle will be different each time. You can save and quit at any time, which is very helpful as the runs can last multiple hours, especially if you don't crank up the battle speed. The only exception is the battles themselves. Attempting to quit in the middle of a battle is considered save scumming. Apparently, Steven will appear and get very mad about this, and if you make him angry enough, he will even take control of the game. I don't know. I've never had to deal with that, as I would never save scum. I only make tactical reevaluations. Random events can be quite chaotic. Sometimes a random level-wide effect will trigger that saves the run. Sometimes it cripples a cat, and sometimes it's a hole made just for me. One of your 4 cats will be selected to pick from the options, making a skill check based on their stats. Just hope your drooling space case isn't the one selected to make an int check. Finally, battles are the real meat of the game. Battles are turn-based tiled maps with each unit inhabiting 1 to 9 spaces depending on size. Each enemy unit comes with unique rules that must be accounted for in your strategy. Enemies can be convinced to kill each other or even run once enough are beaten. Other times, they insta-kill 2 cats within a single turn. It is up to you to manipulate the battlefield to your advantage using the tools at your disposal, or just smack everything until it's dead. Just be sure not to accidentally kill your own cats. When a cat's HP reaches 0, they aren't dead yet, unless they choose to die for the glory of Nippon. Instead, they are downed, at which point they will sustain an injury that permanently lowers a stat, or sometimes 2, by 1 point. They are then allowed 3 hits before being permanently lost. Make sure to keep track of the round number. Completing the battle in fewer rounds gives bonus rewards while staying in combat till round 10 exhausts cats, causing them to regen mana slower and take damage. This will eventually end the fight, so try to be fast. So how do we determine our tools? At the start of the run, you have the choice to select a collar for each cat. These collars correlate to a class that will alter the cat's stats and determine what abilities and passives are granted on level ups. Except for Jester. They embrace chaos. These are Fighter, close-range melee DPS that can be specialized for control, raw damage, or an off-tank role. Likely huffs glue in the alley to kill whatever brain cells remain from his CTE. Hunter, ranged DPS that can summon minions and traps, or can go for straight crit with one of the highest easily obtainable damage outputs in the game. Mage, cast spells for support or damage, includes mastery of the elements, and can AoE down the whole battlefield, including your other cats. Tank, eats rocks, takes hits, supports allies, and controls enemy positioning without any complaints. Cleric can buff, debuff, revive, tank, and most importantly, heal. Necromancer wields life-stealing leeches, summons the dead, manipulates corpses, and striking him down will make him become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Be careful with what they'll do to downed allies. Thief collects money, gives back shots, and never got past their edgy middle school phase. Druid bird up! Heals, buffs, summons, plants flowers, and shapeshifts into their fursona. Butcher tank, but can deal massive damage with a meat hook to pull enemies towards them. Wants to devour the entire map and fart it back out. Do with that information what you will. Psychic, control master, gravity wizard, can shift the entire battlefield, or sometimes just moves one guy a space depending on how lucky you are with his level ups. Tinkerer, weapons manufacturer, robot creator, and avid self-demolitionist. Monk, shifts between stances and attacks twice, prefers to be nude, and can roleplay whatever anime you're into. Lastly, Jester gets random abilities from the other classes for that extra spice of variety. Or you can just go collarless if you want to hurt yourself. There's more strategies than I can count to, and a lot of different combos to set up. As such, I won't be explaining them. You can experience that for yourself and determine what's best and what's not. I will, however, give you some anecdotes from my gameplay. On one run, I had a fighter with a forbidden technique. These are generally quite powerful, one use per battle spells that cause your cat to develop a permanent disorder. On the first battle of the run, he was charmed by an enemy and proceeded to use the technique on my party. This caused my entire party to gain madness and confusion, attacking anything closest only to hurt themselves in the process. More importantly, he acquired psychosis. Psychosis is a disorder that increases a cat's stat at the cost of inflicting permanent madness on them after their first turn. This, of course, was a problem, since he had the highest damage output of the cats in the party. It also meant that at the start of the battle, I had to move him as close to the enemy as possible and use the technique so that he wouldn't use it on his next turn automatically and inflict madness on my party. This meant that he would then acquire another disorder. No problem, I thought. I can just wait 2 battles and override psychosis with something less problematic. Except that's how most forbidden techniques work. His particular technique was the one and only forbidden technique that can inflict disorders on your other party members. This caused a cat to be randomly selected and, out of a pool of possible disorders, given psychosis themselves. After turn 1, I no longer controlled the game and had to watch as every unit on screen attacked each other until there was only one survivor left. This surprisingly worked because the fighter had Lazarus rags to resurrect at the end of round every time he was downed, bravely suffering multiple concussions and sacrificing his ability to form a coherent thought in the process. I'm kidding, of course. He was functionally useless as he would be immediately downed at the start of every round. The real reason was that my butcher had 20 constitution and could mow everything down with his cleaver, all while developing a gambling addiction. However, this still proved to be insufficient for defeating the sequel to everyone's favorite Austrian landscape painter, who finally put down the mad cats. Rest in peace, Bazooka. I'm sad I never got to preserve your genes. Rest in piss, Bozo. I don't care to remember your actual name, but I will never forget your story. I had a build centered around small bursts of repeatable damage, mostly from my monk. After a hard-fought graveyard, the party was down a cat, but ready for the final level of the run, the Throbbing Domain. At this point, the monk was capable of firing off multiple attacks, each with a 1 damage sparkle that impacted a random enemy. Any enemy that approached was also immediately jabbed for damage that would cause more sparkles to fire off. If anything too big got in the way, the monk could just pull a one-punch man once per battle. This worked rather well, until I remembered what level I was in. Stem cats are an enemy within the Throbbing Domain that shed a stem cell when damaged. They are allowed multiple turns per round, and on each of their turns, the stem cells can randomly turn into another stem cat. These cats then have permanent health regen for the rest of the fight. Multiple weak strikes resulted in a map filled with stem cats regenerating and dividing faster than I could kill them, and a frame rate as good as Season 3 of One Punch Man. Side quest items can also be specifically combined and built around for added fun. Glass Cannon spits out glass on every tile and shoots a lob shot at a target. Jar of Radiation deals 1 damage to everything and gives a +1 and -1 to random stats permanently at the end of a battle to the holding cat. Crown of Pestilence replaces a cat's basic attack with a no-cost Pestilence, a necromancer spell that deals 1 damage to everything. Peace Symbol makes a cat do 0 damage to allies. Give these to the cat with the jar to negate damage. How do these work together? Simple. Take cats that have position control abilities to move enemies around. Bonus points if the cats can move without walking on the glass too much while still outputting high damage. Watch the ensuing chaos as enemies die before they can get into range, or are dealt with before that can be an issue. Ultra Vision makes events trigger 2 additional events with harder skill checks. My cats were also specifically bred for high base stats at the cost of a little inbreeding. As such, extra, more difficult events were no longer problems. Just 3 times the loot. Item sets are very useful. Whenever 3 items belonging to a set are placed on a cat, they gain the bonus. This is usually just an additional copy of what at least one of the items already does for added benefit. The Fighter set is composed of multiple weapon options and alternative armors, but the main bonus is a 15% chance to refresh movement, basic attack, trinket, and weapon upon killing an enemy. Putting 2 pieces of fighter armor on with the set bonus grants 45% chance without considering luck scaling. There's a problem though. My fighter has a tail mutation that inflicts immobile turn 1, so I am forced to wait around where my opponents move closer without getting close enough to attack, but close enough for him to reach them. Did I say problem? I meant required opportunity. There is still the issue of scaling. Enemy health eventually gets to a point that even a fighter's standard damage scaling isn't enough. Stoop Zerk is an ability that reduces intelligence to 0, but allows for an extra attack each turn. It then turns into more angrier, which turns remaining mana into strength and upgrades to also increase dex and speed. Combine with a psychic that can force him to move and attack for free, and you make God very nukeable. The mage can then handle remaining groups of small enemies by turning their basic attack into a carpet bomb. Very nice. While not every run will be as unique or exciting, the randomness of the game allows you to always have to stay on your toes. Even if a run appears lost when a boss instantly kills 2 frontline cats, you can still win if you utilize the remaining kits at your disposal well enough. which keeps me trying again and again. That, and the strange itch in my blood that this game scratches. Selecting cats based on fitness to breed to inevitably create stronger and stronger cats for the sole purpose of creating a superior cat race. Ubakatzen, if you will. Mewgenics, an excellent experiment by Macmillan that I have definitely put a reasonable amount of hours into already. I'm personally excited for the continued support of the game in the same way The Binding of Isaac had it. I give it 6 Down syndrome tanks out of 12 idiot savant tinkerers. Very nice. More content to come. I'm attempting to brew some Datura tea for the next video, so that I don't even know what will come out at the other end of my creative process. Take it easy.